It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman here with Andrea Serrani, and today is Andrea's birthday. Happy birthday, Andrea.
Thank you.
And
my 30th birthday.
To celebrate.
The big 30.
I kind of feel like this was your idea.
Yeah.
For me to come up with 30 things. Okay. I wasn't just making that up.
No, I'm all about the advice. In fact, we started the show by soliciting advice. So everyone else who's listening, I'd love you to send me like the advice that you would give your 30-year-old self, or if you don't need it to be formulated so fancy, you could just give me personally advice. This is my advice for Andrea.
Yeah.
So far, we've gotten the advice from Phil Black, who says, don't stand up in a canoe.
Solid advice.
Excellent advice.
Yeah.
This is what I'm looking for, guys.
I want to know if that comes with a story.
Right. Is this a lesson learned or preventative? Yeah.
So I've got 30 tips for somebody turning 30, although the age is pretty arbitrary. I mean,
these are just tips for life. Yeah.
And also, I can't validate that my advice is worth anything. So just a disclaimer.
They're things that have been important for you.
So I was trying to think, okay, what was I doing when I was 30? I think we had just moved to Fort Wayne and been married for less than a year. And we were pregnant with Sebastian, mostly my wife with the pregnancy part. I didn't have a whole lot to do in that field. But so I was trying to think of where I was, what I was doing, but also just trying to think of the average 30-year-old, what are kind of some situational things. So here we go. Number one, and this might be the most important, is enjoy your current vocation. Whatever that would be, if it's single or married, with kids or without kids. I think a lot of times we can think that there's a different vocation that was better than the current vocation, but to enjoy whatever that current vocation brings. If you're single, you probably have more free time than if you're married and have children. So anyway, enjoy that. Going along with that, number two, the grass is greener where you water it. I think a lot of times we can think the grass is greener on the other side. To invest in your current vocation and try to get the most out of it. Number three, be aware of your spiritual parenthood. So whether you have children or not, that we still are spiritual parents. And so to look for people outside of our family. So if you're single, there's just anybody that you can be a spiritual parent to. But even if you have children, to think, okay, how can I be a mentor, a spiritual father or mother to somebody else's children? Number four is to seek advice from other people.
Check.
That's exactly what we're doing here. I think that was one thing I've learned so much from other people, you know, and when we were going through marriage prep, just trying to find other couples that we could get advice from. Number five is don't always take their advice. So ask people for their advice, but then decide if that advice is worth taking. And there are people who will give you advice whether you ask for it or not.
Yes.
Especially with parenting, people have a lot of advice on how to parent. That's great. Gather as much advice as you can and then make an educated decision on what you should do. Number six, don't worry about things that don't matter. Like, there's so many things that don't matter that we spend so much time worrying about. Clothes. It doesn't matter.
My grandma once...
How much time do I... That's kind of why I adopted the uniform. I don't say that everybody needs to do that, but...
Yeah. My grandma once gave me the advice, if she said, I'm not going to be able to get the phrasing just right off the top of my head. It was something like, if you're worrying and you can do something about it, do something. If you're worrying and you can't do something about it, pray about it, but stop worrying.
Yeah.
Like the point was, just don't worry. My mom laughs because like my grandma is such a worrier. She's like, my mom needs to take her own advice.
Right.
But you know what? The best person to give advice about worrying is probably someone who worries.
Yep.
They know all about it.
Do as I say, not as I do. All right. Still don't worry, but pay attention to things that do matter. So like relationships, like we're told in the Bible not to worry. Worry is not a virtue, but pay attention to these things that do matter and invest in those things. Number 8, be financially responsible. So I was very specific on how to word this because like investing in the future. Like, just don't go into stupid debt.
Yeah, it's going to look different for people.
Right? Yeah.
But
watch some Dave Ramsey YouTube videos or something. Be responsible. Number 9, most anything electronic is going to drop in value.
Yeah.
Not to say that it can't be a good investment because we can get the value out of it that it's going to lose. But don't think like, oh, I'm going to invest in this smartphone because it's going to hold its value.
Yeah, no.
No, it's eventually going to be worth nothing. Just remember that. Number 10, nobody cares what kind of car you drive. And if they do, then you shouldn't care about their opinion. That's my personal philosophy.
I like it.
Number 11, don't compare yourself to others. We could do that all day.
Yeah.
But
in anything.
like the hand cannot say to the eye, I do not need you. Like we all have different roles to play in the body of Christ. That's St. Paul, not me. Number 12, take pride in your work and do your best. So work is part of your vocation. And unless you're a priest, it's not your entire vocation, but it's part of your vocation is the work that you do. It's something that you're called to do. It's something that God has created you to do. And it's not just a means to an end, but it's an end in and of itself. So pay attention to it and do your work well. If it's not where you're supposed to be, then do something different. Number 13, take pictures and videos. My philosophy is you can always delete them later, but you can't get in a time machine and go back and take pictures after the fact.
Yeah, that's true.
And even just now, I went to my Google Photos and I looked up November 2009 to see what I was doing
and you're like,
when I turned 30.
Yeah.
And it was fun to see, I was in Kansas City for this. All right, number 14, go on a retreat once a year. This can look all kinds of different ways. This could be just going on a camping trip by yourself. It could be going on an organized retreat. It could be doing men's conference like Rekindle the Fire, silent retreat, whatever. There's all kinds of different ways, but once a year, do something to really invest into your faith. Number 15, teach what you know. So there's something that you know that somebody else doesn't know, and you can share that with them. And I think a lot of times we think, well, I'm not an expert in this. Sometimes our amateurness is more helpful to somebody just starting out. So whatever, just teach what you know. Number 16, learn what you don't know. Don't stop learning. So whether it be books or watching documentaries or listening to podcasts or taking classes, we should always be continuing to learn. Mm-hmm. My philosophy with the boys is we get an education so that we can use the brain that God gave us to help other people. So the more that we invest into our knowledge, the more we can help other people.
I like that.
Let's see. Number 17, read the New Testament. This is something that took me years to do. Literally, I spent years reading through the New Testament. But it was such a great thing.
Yeah.
You can start today. Number 18, serve or volunteer at your church or coach T-ball or at a soup kitchen, whatever. Just find something that you can do to help out, volunteer, something that you will not ever get paid for, and maybe nobody will appreciate, but it's giving back to the community, giving back to the church. Number 19, go to daily mass as often as you're able to. And, maybe this is going to be once a month or once a week, whatever. Just try to make it to some daily masses. That was, I think, a big thing, helpful thing for me. Number 20, complain less. That's just something we all need to work on.
Yeah, probably. That's a really good one.
21, donate to charities. So I think, the younger we are, the more we think like that's something that we'll do when we're older, when we're more financially independent or something. It's not something to put off. We should always be looking at ways that we can donate to charities. Number 22, ideas are worthless. Execution is what matters. So do something about it. You can have all the great ideas in the world and nobody's life is changed by that. You actually do something about those great ideas, then people's lives can be changed. Number 23, don't quit. If it's what you're called to do, don't give up. Number 24, quit.
Love it.
If it isn't what you're supposed to be doing, then stop doing it.
Yeah, let it go.
I think we get in this idea that like don't quit is like the end. Mm-hmm. Well, no. If you're going in the wrong direction, stop and turn around. Or
the other thing, it's like the sunk cost fallacy,
right,
where we think, well, I've been doing it so long, I can't just quit.
Right.
But
I'm 3 years into this degree, I've got to finish the degree. No, not if that's not what you're called to do.
This goes into one of my top pieces of advice is that God doesn't play tricks on us. So right, that if we really have been pursuing him and desiring his will and these kinds of things, then, but like we've been discerning something and we've been pursuing it and then we feel like that's not what we're supposed to do anymore. It's like, well, has God been fooling me this whole time? Right. It's like, no, actually, he just was giving you something from this experience and now you can just move on, right? It's not a trick. It's not a game. You just move on.
All right. Number 25 in our 30 tips for people turning 30 or ish. Do the right thing, not the easy thing. There was a sign. This was like grade school, I think, or maybe high school. Mm-hmm. What's right isn't always easy. What's easy isn't always right. Or what's right isn't always popular. What's popular isn't always right. Those kind of things.
Yes.
Number 26, be a part of a community. And this was actually when I was 30 in Fort Wayne. Father Ben Mullenkamp helped us get a nice community going at the church. And that was something that really helped us out as a couple, as a family. And I still keep in touch with those people. Number 27, try new things, foods, locations, adventures. Be open to things that are going to expand your horizon. I
ate a balloon for my birthday this weekend.
Eat a balloon, preferably not a latex rubber balloon.
No, it was taffy.
Taffy's okay. I approve of that. Number 28, try new things, like different types of prayer. Legitimate types of prayer. Don't experiment with wacky.
Yeah, we don't need to be asking Shiva for her help or anything. No.
But if you don't do the rosary, try a rosary. If there's something going on at your church and they're offering something, like check it out. Try adoration or just different ways that we can pray. Look up different prayers. Number 29, say thanks. Be grateful for things and express your gratitude for things. Number 30, this is my last piece of advice for somebody turning 30. And stealing this from Baz Luhrmann, who said, wear sunscreen.
You know what? After you sent me that this morning, I looked at it and then I realized that he actually didn't say that. He made that from someone else's speech.
Yes. Yeah, it's a song that he put together based off of like this old advice column or something.
Secondhand advice via Baz Luhrmann.
Also, it's good advice.
Good advice.
From Dr. episode 69. Wear sunscreen.
Yes.
Had I done that, I might not have had to go to Dr. McGovern to get skin cancer removed off my nose.
It was similar to the advice I asked my aunt this weekend. What advice would you give your 30-year-old self? And she said, moisturize.
Oh,
so, there
you go.
Skincare is more important than you think, guys.
Maybe. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, so I've been working on my list. Some of the ones I have, like God's plan is better than your plan.
Oh, yeah.
It's extremely important. Know yourself, especially your weaknesses. God's love doesn't always look or feel the same, but it's always there. Go to mass, like you said. A good regular confessor can change your life. I already said God doesn't play tricks on us. Saints make good friends. Pray with them, read their words. Let them introduce you to their best friend, Jesus.
Okay. Sounds like a children's book.
Accept your vocation and the season of that vocation instead of wishing for some future version of it.
Right.
So wherever you're at in your vocation is the place that you should be and ought to be and want to be, should be enjoying.
Yeah.
And not thinking of, someday I'm going to be able to do X, Y, and Z.
Send us your advice. Holy Cross College text line 260-436-9598. You can text us your advice. I'd like it.